Hey guys, I'm Alpha Poshpot and welcome to week 36 of the 2018-2019 Premier League review. If you are new to this series, what we do is we take a look at the past set Premier League results, we take a look at the Premier League table, and we finish off by looking at the top goal scorers. So here are the past set of Premier League results. These games were played on Friday the 26th, Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th of April 2019. Also next to the games are their times in this video, so if you want to hear about a specific match, you can just go to the time next to the game and you'll skip out all the other crap. But without further ado, let's get into our first match. We start with Southampton versus Bournemouth. Southampton took the lead 12 minutes into the match as Shane Long opened the scoring. He hasn't scored for a year, and then he goes and bags 5 this month alone. It had been coming as Southampton started the much quicker of the two teams. The ball was played up to Nathan Redmond and he found himself on the left hand side of the box. He looks up, squared it across to Long, and the Irishman's shot squeezed through the legs of Nathan Ake and rolled into the bottom right corner. But Bournemouth levelled it up 5 minutes later as they got a goal completely against the run of play from one end of the pitch to the other, and like I just mentioned, Bournemouth didn't have a sniff until this chance. It was a rapid counter-attack that we all love from Bournemouth, and they stretched the Southampton defence as Josh King sprinted forward, tapped it off to his left for Callum Wilson. Wilson then rolled it across for Dan Gosling and he whacked it past the keeper to put his side level. And Bournemouth turned the game around just after the half-hour mark as Callum Wilson put Bournemouth in front for the first time in the match. After a corner was taken short, the ball found its way to David Brooks, a fair distance from goal. The young Welshman took a shot and it zipped along the floor through a crowd of bodies. Angus Gunn sees it late and can only parry it, but it falls free to Callum Wilson and he put the rebound home from point blank range. But Southampton levelled it up in the 57th minute as James Ward-Prowse got another goal in the stellar season he's having. Ward-Prowse picked the ball up about 35 yards out and was allowed to run at the Bournemouth back line. He switched the ball onto his left foot, which created a bit of space for him, and he fired one towards goal, and it was too low and too in the corner for Boris to get to as he dragged his shot straight into the bottom right. And Southampton took the lead in the 67th minute as half-time sub Matt Targett put Southampton in front again. Like I said, he came on at half-time, but he was looking lively from the first second. Jan Valery returned to the starting 11 in this match and he made it count as he got the assist. Southampton were just camped in the Bournemouth half, but they were forced away from the box. The ball was then played out wide to Valery. He touched it around Nathan Ake, floated the ball towards the back post, and Targett was there and he got his noggin on it and he powered home his first Premier League goal and the 1000th Premier League goal of the season. But Bournemouth levelled the game up again in the 86th minute as Callum Wilson got his second of the match. Again, Bournemouth caught Southampton on the break as they drive forward. King rolled it through to Ryan Fraser. He takes it to the byline before rolling it across the face of goal, and getting on the end of it was Callum Wilson and he tapped it home from close range. And that's how the game ended, and with Cardiff losing at the same time, Southampton confirmed their survival and their place in the league next season. What a game this was as well, by the way, back and forth throughout the entire match, and it made for a massively enjoyable match. What a job Ralph Hasenhüttl has done, by the way. When he joined halfway through the season, Southampton were looking one of the favourites to go down, but since then the Austrian has joined and he's taken literally double the points in just 6 more games. For both teams, the minds are pretty much already on next season, where they will look to rebuild and be a bit more consistent, especially Bournemouth because they were a solid mid-table side a few months ago, but after a string of up and down results they do find themselves in 14th, but thankfully for their fans they were already safe. It was a thrilling match between the two South Coast sides, which saw both teams come away with a point apiece. And we move on to Liverpool versus Huddersfield. In the Friday night fixture, Liverpool took the lead just 15 seconds into the match as Naby Keita gave the home side a very early lead. It came from a Huddersfield kick-off. They go back, all the way back in fact, to the keeper. Came to Jon Stankovic. He was pressed and his pass was intercepted by Mo Salah. He tapped it off to Naby Keita and the Guinean swept it into the bottom left corner. And Liverpool doubled their lead in the 23rd minute as Sadio Mane got the goal. Big Virgil van Dijk, the PFA Player of the Year, powered forward and gave it to Andy Robertson on the wing. Robbo looks up and puts in a perfect cross 10 yards out, and getting on the end of it was Sadio Mane and he nodded it home. And Liverpool got a third just before half-time as Mo Salah became the first man this season to hit 20 Premier League goals. Another fullback with the assist, this time it was Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has the ball pretty much on the halfway line. He sends one forward for Salah. The Egyptian gets on the end of it and lobs it over the oncoming Lösel and it bounces into the net. And Liverpool got a fourth in the 65th minute as Sadio Mane got his second of the match and his 20th Premier League goal of the season as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold involved again as he gave it to captain Jordan Henderson. He crosses one in and yet again it's a Liverpool man on the end of the cross as Sadio Mane headed in his second of the match. And Liverpool made it 5 in the 82nd minute as Mo Salah got his second of the match as well. Liverpool fullbacks are assisting machines. Substitute Xherdan Shaqiri found Andy Robbo and the left back drilled it across the face of goal. Mo Salah was there and the Egyptian was left with a simple double tapping. And that's how the game ended as Liverpool went back to the top of the table with Man City still to play on the Sunday. If there were any nerves around the Liverpool fanbase, then they were quickly eradicated with that early goal. A few records were equalled in this match, with Mane and Salah both reaching 20 goals in a season. They became the first club to have two players reach 20 goals in the same season since the 2013-2014 season, when Luis Suarez and Danny Sturridge did it, also for Liverpool as well. And with Andy Robertson's 2 assists, he moved to 11 assists for the season, a joint most for a defender in Premier League history, and more than likely he will break that. To be fair to Huddersfield, they didn't lie down after the first goal. They had the better chances in the next 10 minutes or so, but like pretty much all of their games this season, they just couldn't take their chances, and their failure to take the chances made it a comfortable Friday night for the Reds in the end. And we move on to Leicester versus Arsenal. In the first half, Bernd Leno was the busier of the two keepers, and Arsenal looked in real trouble, so it wasn't ideal when they were reduced to 10 men in the 36th minute as Ainsley Maitland-Niles was sent off. Both of them were incredibly harsh. The first yellow is a joke. Moments before, it was Aubameyang who was shoved over, nothing given. Maitland-Niles comes in and does the exact same thing, and he was booked for it. And then the second booking, well, he was late on James Maddison, but there's literally no contact. Maddison goes down like he was just shot, and the ref was fooled by it and gave Maitland-Niles the second yellow, an incredibly harsh red card. But a thing that I found strange about it was that Maitland-Niles just accepted it. There was no argument between him and the ref. There was no protesting his innocence. Ainsley was just a bit too calm for me, which I know sounds weird, but if you know that both bookings were harsh, you would be fuming, but he just walked off. And Leicester would make the man advantage count in the 58th minute as Yuri Tielemans opened the scoring for the Foxes. He's on loan this season, but if there's one signing that pretty much all Leicester fans want this summer, it's to get this man back permanently. James Maddison went out wide to Ricardo Pereira. The fullback can't find a cross, so he went back to Maddison. Maddison then drilled one in the middle, and the Belgian ghosted past Koscielny in front of Socrates and glanced his header in at the near post. And Leicester doubled the lead in the 87th minute as Jamie Vardy put the game to bed. Route 1 stuff from Leicester. Kasper Schmeichel literally gets the assist. Schmeichel whacked it up the pitch to Jamie Vardy. Arsenal defenders were caught out by it. It's to Vardy. He chips Bernd Leno. He beats the keeper but can't beat the woodwork. It hits the bar, but luckily for the veteran striker, the ball fell back to him and he got up ahead of Leno and headed the rebound home past Socrates, who was on the line. And Leicester put one final nail in the coffin as they got their third with the final kick of the game as Jamie Vardy got his second and Leicester's third. Harvey Barnes was trying to weave his way in and out and he was tackled, but the ball fell nicely at Ricardo Pereira, who squeezed through the Arsenal defenders before squaring it to Vardy, and Vardy tapped home his 100th league goal for Leicester. And that's how the game ended, and for the third time in a row, not only have Arsenal lost, but they've conceded 3 goals in each of the last 3 games as well. I know a lot of people were saying that the red card changed the game, but sorry, you are just chatting shit. Leicester were on top even before the red card, so obviously they were going to be on top after it as well. Is 3rd and 4th place like poisonous? Why don't any team want it? Literally not a single team involved in that top 4 race won this weekend. It's becoming a bit daft. 3-0 was a bit nice on Arsenal, wasn't it? It could have been and should have been a lot more, if not for Bernd Leno. If Bernd Leno wasn't a goal for Arsenal, it literally could have been 10. At one point, the German stopper made a triple save. He had to make 3 saves all in the space of 10 seconds, and not once did his defenders even try to do anything. Arsenal just couldn't deal with Jamie Vardy. He was always playing off the shoulders of the Arsenal defenders, coming short, turning around and making the run behind them, and it worked constantly, and it seemed to always be Vardy with Arsenal, as he's now scored 8 goals against Arsenal in his career, more than he has against any other of the top 6 sides. And we move on to Watford versus Wolves. In this replay from the FA Cup semi-final, Wolves were pushing for the first goal in the match, and they got the goal they deserved in the 41st minute, as Raul Jimenez broke the record and became Wolves' highest Premier League goal scorer in a single season. It's his 13th of the season, more than any Wolves player has got before. Diogo Jota got the assist for it as the ball was played to him on the left wing. He made his way down the wing before floating the ball towards the back post, and left completely unmarked was Jimenez, and he headed it home past a helpless Ben Foster. But Watford equalised in the 49th minute as Andre Gray got the goal. What a mistake by Wolves, but more specifically, Ryan Bennett. Bennett wants to play it back to his keeper, but he wasn't even looking, hangs his keeper out to dry as his pass was intercepted by Gerard Deulofeu. He looks to round the keeper, but was well stopped by Patricio. But fortunately for Watford, the ball popped back kindly for Gray, who hit it first time into the back of the net. But Wolves retook the lead in the 77th minute as Diogo Jota got a massive goal in the race for 7th. Ben Foster will feel he could do better with this one. Ruben Neves has the ball deep inside the Watford half. He looks up and spots spots his Portuguese teammate making a run. Neves does well to ping a ball diagonally into the box towards the back post. Ben Foster comes for it, but he gets nowhere near it, and it fell to Jota, and he tapped into the empty net as a stranded Foster could only watch on. And that's how the game ended, as Wolves got revenge for the FA Cup semi-final as they beat the team that prevented them from getting to the final. Not only that, they moved 4 points clear of Watford and put a bit more of a grip on that 7th place finish they want. The first half in this one was the complete opposite of the FA Cup semi-final a few weeks ago. Nothing really happening apart from the Wolves opener. Watford needed a late rally to come from behind in that semi-final, but that wasn't to be here, as Javi Gracia's 50th league game in charge of Watford ended in defeat. They took a while to get going, but did show glimpses of attacking prowess as the first half went on, but they didn't have a shot on target until Gray's goal, and that was the only shot on target they had in the full 90. If Watford do finish outside the top 7, they can still book a place in the Europa League, but they would have to do it by beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final next month. Easier said than done. And we move on to Burnley versus Manchester City. In the game where every Liverpool fan were praying for Burnley to get something from the game, they looked alright in the first half. Well, not alright, Burnley were getting pumped like a porn star, but City couldn't put the ball in the net. That was until the 62nd minute as Sergio Aguero gave City a vital goal. The Premier League title this year could be decided by actual millimetres. Bernardo Silva clipped a ball into the middle for Aguero, who's trying to get his shot away, but his initial one was blocked, but the ball literally didn't go anywhere. It came back to Aguero. He put it past Tom Heaton, but Matt Lawton is on the line. He chests it down, punts it clear, but as the ball was in the air, the ref's watch goes off and the goal was given. And if I remember correctly, the actual stat, that it was over the line by just under 3 centimetres. And that's how the game ended, and I'll tell you what, City are pushing it here. Since the champions exited the Champions League, it's been a bit sloppy from the reigning champs, but they have ground out all 3 wins without conceding a goal. But it's the way they are playing in possession that could be a worry for City fans, and any other fan that isn't a Liverpool fan. Man City were careless with possession at times, with passes going astray and attacking moves breaking down after lapses of concentration. There was anxiety at half time that City would be the first to blink in the title race, but the goal, like City's display at Turf Moor, wasn't pretty, but you could feel the relief in the away end. Burnley can't be accused of lying down, because the boys in claret and blue gave it a real go, and the Burnley fans showed their appreciation at the final whistle despite the loss. But despite the good work they put in the defence, they clearly just lacked that extra touch of class they needed in attack, which meant that they only had 2 shots on target in the entire game, which is Burnley's lowest ever in a Premier League match, as Manchester City went back to the top with their 12th league win on the bounce. And we move on to Manchester United versus Chelsea. Man United started the quicker of the two sides, and they got the goal they deserved on the 10-minute mark as former Chelsea man Juan Mata got a goal on his 31st birthday. Luke Shaw had the ball on the wing, he passed it forward to Pogba and kept running. Pogba gave it to Romelu Lukaku. It's a great ball by Lukaku to lift it over the Chelsea defence back to Shaw, who ran all the way. Shaw sorted his feet out, tapped it across the face of goal to Juan Mata, and he smashed it into the empty net. But Chelsea levelled it up in the 42nd minute as Marcus Alonso got the equaliser. I don't think I've ever seen a fan base hate their own player like Chelsea fans and Marcus Alonso. But yet again, it's another mistake by David De Gea. It's getting a bit silly now. Eden Hazard had the ball on the wing, trying to force an issue, but instead he went back to David Luiz. Luiz then passed it across to his defensive partner in Antonio Rudiger. Man United defence part like Moses and the Red Sea. Rudiger took a touch and whacked one from distance. It's an easy catch for De Gea, but for the 4th time in the last 2 weeks, De Gea makes a mistake, drops it, and Alonso pounced on the rebound and dinked it over De Gea and into the net. And as the game ended as another mistake by David De Gea gifted Chelsea a point. Up until Chelsea's equaliser out of nowhere, United were on top and in control, but after the point was shared here, the top 4 race is out of their hands, and United now need both Arsenal and Chelsea to slip up again, and then they need to take advantage of it. It's a testament to how far these two teams have slipped recently, as a few years ago this match would have been a title decider, and in 2008 this match was a Champions League final, but now it's being played to decide who finishes 4th. United started the game well, having chances before they scored, and Eric Bailly went close to doubling the lead just before Chelsea's goal. Chances were then few and far between after the interval, but United again went closest as Rojo had a chance cleared off the line. Hazard again was the best player for Chelsea, but in a game where either team could have put one foot in next season's Champions League, they both had to settle for a point. And we move on to Brighton versus Newcastle. After watching Cardiff lose earlier in the day, Brighton knew that a win here would pretty much relegate Cardiff, not officially, but it would take a crazy goal difference swing of like 17. So pretty much Brighton would be safe if they won, so it wasn't great when they went behind in the 18th minute as Jose Perez continued his great goal scoring form in the second half of the season. Paul Dummett has the ball and just casually made his way deeper in the Brighton half, no pressure on him whatsoever. He floated the ball in, Salomon Rondon is the target, but instead of going for goal, the striker does well to compose himself, chested down for Perez, and the Spaniard wellied it into the top right corner of the net from just inside the area. But Brighton levelled it up in the 76th minute as Pascal Gross got the equaliser. Started with a big switch for Brighton from the left hand all the way over to the right to Bruno. Bruno goes back to Anthony Knockaert. He wants to try and force a way through, but he couldn't and went back to Bruno. The fullback swung a ball in towards Glenn Murray. The best striker in the world can't direct it goalwards, but instead he can head it forward, and getting on the loose ball was Gross, who took a touch and poked it past the keeper. And as the game ended, and Brighton will be looking at this match as the big one in their quest for survival. Not only would a win have pretty much secured their safety, it was arguably the easiest to win. No disrespect to Newcastle, but Brighton's last 2 games of the season are Manchester City and Arsenal. Actually, never mind, they could easily score 5 against Arsenal at this point. Just like last season, Newcastle have peaked in the second half of the season as they were as low as 18th back in January, but since then the informed Magpies have climbed the table up to 13th, and in the match, apart from 2 second half chances for Brighton, the Newcastle defence looked untroubled and, as Rafa Benitez liked it, compact. It is tight at the bottom for Brighton and they will be getting nervous, but they know that they might not need to pick up any more points, as if Cardiff lose to Palace on Saturday, then the Bluebirds will be down anyway. And we move on to Tottenham versus West Ham. It was a tight first half, loads of chances, and most of them came to Tottenham, but they just couldn't find a way through, and West Ham would make them pay for that in the 67th minute as they took the lead as Mikel Antonio became the first opposition player to score at Tottenham's new ground. Declan Rice started the move off just inside the Tottenham half. He went out wide to Marko Arnautovic on the right wing. He floated the ball into the middle for Antonio and he chested it down and poked it past Hugo Lloris to give the away side the lead. We won't talk about that celebration, I don't know what he's doing. And that's how the game ended, as Tottenham were beat for the first time in the new stadium thanks to Mikel Antonio's decisive goal. Yet again, a top 4 team doesn't want to cement their place in the top 4, becoming a bit silly now. Tottenham will be left wondering how they didn't at least score in this match, because in the first half especially they had plenty of chances, but they just couldn't find a way past former Arsenal man Lucas Fabianski. West Ham haven't had the best of times away from home this season, having only took 1 point in their last 8 league games, but after a first half in which their keeper was the busier, West Ham were a different side in the second half and always looked the more likely to score. And the first goal conceded by Tottenham at their new ground was enough to seal the result, as West Ham picked up only their 3rd away win in the league this season. And we move on to Fulham versus Cardiff. It was a match of very few chances, but in the second half Fulham started to come forward and they got a massive goal in deciding who went down with them in the 76th minute as Ryan Babel gave Fulham the lead. It's a stunner from the red-headed man. The ball starts about 10 yards into the Cardiff area. Cyrus Christie went on a dazzling run going all the way into the box. He's forced to turn around and laid it off to the Dutchman, and Babel thumped one first time straight in the top left corner from 25 yards out. And as the game ended, and Cardiff will be wondering how they didn't take anything from this game. In the final 5 minutes alone, Cardiff were all over Fulham and had Sergio Rico making some great saves between the Fulham sticks. Can someone tell me why Fulham are deciding to play now? Where was this earlier in the season? Fulham can go out and play without pressure now, and it's their fate is already decided, and it really shows. Cardiff were on top for the first half, but then in the second half, Fulham came out with the blocks flying, and after Mitrovic wasted a good chances, Ryan Bubbleshoer made his count. Fulham have now won 3 games on the trot, the first time they have done in the Premier League since 2012, and they've now picked up more points in the last 3 games than they did in the 20 before it. It took until they went behind for Cardiff to play with urgency, as they had 8 shots on target in the match, with 7 of them coming in the final 15 minutes, and after battling with each other last season in the Championship, you can see that Fulham fans were a little plucky that they may have dragged their opponents down with them. And finally, we've got Crystal Palace versus Everton. And a 0-0 to finish off on. Everton will be wondering how they haven't won it. They started like they did last weekend when they dismantled Man United, and they had good chances. 22 shots they had in this game, but they could only manage to get 3 of them on target. After securing their safety in the league last time out, Palace were forced to deal with wave after wave of Everton pressure, while Zaha and Benteke were kept quiet by the Everton defence. It was Patrick Van Aanholt who was a bother for Everton, not only defensively, but attacking as well. Kurt Zouma was bullying the Palace forwards, keeping them silent all match as Everton picked up another clean sheet, this being their 7th clean sheet in the last 9 games as it finished goalless. Right, so that's all the games I've got for this time. Before we go, let's take a look at the Premier League table and top goal scorers, starting off with the Premier League table. Starting with top 5, and as you can see, Manchester City are still top after narrowly beating Burnley, Liverpool are second after putting 5 past Huddersfield, Tottenham are third after suffering their first loss in their new stadium against West Ham, Chelsea are fourth after drawing with Man United, and Arsenal make up the top 5 after being bummed by Leicester. Moving on to the bottom 5, and Huddersfield are in the bottom after losing at Anfield. Fulham are 19th after picking up their 3rd consecutive win against Cardiff. Speaking of Cardiff, they're 18th and will be relegated next week if they lose to Palace. Brighton are 17th after picking up a point against Newcastle, and Southampton make up the bottom 5 after securing their place in the league next season following a draw with Bournemouth. Moving on to the top goal scorers, and Mo Salah is on the top, and he was the first man to hit 20 goals this season after his double against Huddersfield took him to 21 goals and 8 assists. Sergio Aguero became only the 2nd player in Premier League history to reach 20 goals in 5 consecutive seasons after his win against Burnley took him to 20 goals and 8 assists. Sadio Mane hit 2 against Huddersfield and that took him to 20 goals and 1 assist. Pierre Aubameyang was silent against Leicester, he stayed on 19 goals and 5 assists. And speaking of Leicester, the man of the moment Jamie Vardy moved in the top 5 after his double against Arsenal took him to 18 goals and 4 assists. Right, so that's go for this time. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be back next Tuesday at 4 PM for the next episode of the Premier League Review. If you want to stay up to date about anything we do, be best to follow us on Twitter. The link to that is in the description, or it's at portionofsport_. If you missed the last episode, that'll be on the right hand side of the outro screen, and a link to the channel will be on the left if you feel like subscribing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. I've been Mark from Portion of Sport, and I will see you soon.
My mama calls, see you on TV, sunset shit done changed. Ever since we was on, I dreamed it all. Ever since I was young, they said I won't be nothing.